We're falling fast because we rallied fast, and we are approaching support, but the support is a pretty wide zone. We're looking at a very short-term time frame. This is the S&P futures. And today was a bloodbath. At one point, the NASDAQ was almost down 5%, and the S&P down 3%, I think, in the end. Hundreds of points shed. These are not that surprising, the fact that we're falling fast. I know it's painful, but the large reason for it is that we took too long to come back to these levels. On the way up, we did it too fast without hardly any red ticks, which creates this box right here, which is, yes, we do have support, but it's too old to matter a lot. So it's more of a zone rather than a hard line in the sand. So if you've been watching the prior videos, you know that this here is the zone I was looking for as far as the target one once we lost the support levels from above. If you remember, the SPY 585 was important to hold. And we are now in the zone that was deemed a target back then. I zoomed out on the S&P futures in order to give you the bigger picture. So you can see we're approaching a blue line that we haven't before. This is just a moving average, a high time frame moving average. The line that I mentioned talks about control. This, have we started selling rallies? Did we break trend? And the answer is starting to be yes and yes at a higher and higher time frame. So what happens next? When we bounce, if we bounce, we're going to hit a lot of resistance. And the resistance is scattered. But I think the zone for support is pretty strong, and it's the strongest if you consider what happened last August. So in the summer of 2024, we had a really bad day, almost as bad as today, except it happened before the market opened. The NASDAQ was down 5%. It was a violent day. The drop was pretty large, and we're approaching the top end of the whole zone. And I think if we fall another 3 or 4% on the futures, we will hit the middle parts of that. And we would approach the breakouts from March and April, the period of time between March and April last year. This is a lot to say one thing. We're falling fast because we rallied fast, and we are approaching support, but the support is a pretty wide zone. So I would continue with the mindset that I've been preaching for weeks. Use strength to get rid of problems. I would not add to current positions. Any bullish positions I take would be on stocks that I don't already own or anything like them, and I'm taking just a starter position. People are starting to talk about bottoms. I contend that we haven't even started falling to a large degree. Consider the blue line, which is a moving average. We haven't checked back to it in so long, and it's so far below here. Visually, you can see we're still pretty high up there. Perspective, right here was the pandemic, and this was a long 10 months correction for 2022. And here we are. We have had these corrections before. So you're going to hear a lot of experts saying, oh, it's a bargain, basement prices. Well, these same experts 5 days ago were saying one thing, like short squeeze coming, because we had a few red days before that. And today the message is shift in mindset or hunker down type of a statement. I don't think they're doing us any favor. And they're more interested in clickbait than actual help. It doesn't look like a bottom, even though we may bounce. So be careful with what you read and hear out there. I think if we just use logic and math and pictures like this one we're looking at, we can formulate an opinion that's a little bit cut above the jabber that's out there. I also want to focus on the banks a little bit because they were responsible for a lot of the greens. They're about 10 to 12% of the S&P, for example. And this large red W you see on my screen suggests that the target is like around 44, at least target 1. Target 2 is in the 30s. Imagine if 10% of the S&P had that much more to fall, how much of an impact it would have on the index itself, which is to say there are some winners that may want to give back some, and if they don't rotate out of them into something else, we may have incremental sellers selling pressure on the S&P. And if you need any help at all, pop into the live room. I'm there all day, every day.